The City of Bristol, providing beautiful parks, economic development, and a family-friendly community.
Okay, I have 6:45, so we are going to call the joint meeting on Wednesday, August 10th, 2022 to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags on my left. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the joint meeting on July 12th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move it.
Second.
Any questions, comments, changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Number two, short agenda tonight, hopefully. Everything is on the consent calendar for this meeting. Does anybody wish to remove anything from the consent agenda or calendar? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We move on to our monthly revenue and expense report presentation by the Comptroller. Go ahead, Diane.
Is that on? There we go.
Yep.
This should be relatively quick. We're 1 month into the new fiscal year, so there isn't really too much to report on the new fiscal year. Other than, the tax collections are coming in well. I know the chart that you have with your report, we ran that as of August 1st, but not everything had been posted. The tax collector actually did, we had a conversation the other day, and just as an example, on the chart that you have in front of you, the real estate collections were at 45.9%, and after she posted everything, she's closer to 50% for the month of July collections on the real estate. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what really comes in, like on August 1st, that they post, like that comes in the last day. But with regard to the prior fiscal year, we're still in the process of closing everything out. Not too much has changed since the last month's report. I do anticipate that we will end the year with a nice surplus of funds that we could transfer over into some reserves. The plan for that would be all the transfers and year-end carryovers will be going to the Board of Finance this month for August, so you will get those in September. I do know we have to carry $1.4 million into the Equipment Building Sinking Fund, and then we will look at how we want to use the rest of those funds, whether we put some in the Mill Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund, which will probably be a recommendation to put some in because we have revaluation this year. But one of the things that I know the Board of Finance and the Purchasing Subcommittee of the Board of Finance has talked about was just kind of preparing for next year with all of the increases in fuel and some of the other commodities that the city has been purchasing, like salt for the snow, when snow season comes around. So one of the things that we thought of, was suggested when we were working on the budget this past year, was not to budget for that within actually everybody's individual department, but we were going to set aside funds with some of these surplus funds and set them aside as departments need them. We could draw down off of these reserves. It's a little bit better than having a budget skewed from year to year for anomalies like this, which hopefully prices will stabilize at some point. But those are the three biggest items that I would recommend that we look at. The Equipment Building Sinking Fund that we have to transfer for capital outlay that was approved, the Mill Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund, and then this commodity reserve, with the goal of maintaining a fund balance at the end of June 30th between 12 and 15%, which is the Board of Finance policy, their goal to stay at that. And I believe we'll definitely achieve that this year. So that's really all I have to report. If anybody had any questions on anything, I am here. Ask
To the
away.
chair.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Diane, Ray's probably going to kill me for even asking this, but is there any chance that some of that surplus can be set aside for the dog pound?
I guess that would be up to the Board of Finance to decide how those funds could be allocated, and the joint board, obviously. And depending on the amounts, which I think Ray's probably still putting those all together, getting estimates.
Yeah, we should have those. I'll speak for Ray on that over
Yeah.
the next week or two,
Yep.
and certainly for our upcoming Department of Public Works meetings. Although, however, our next Department of Public Works meeting is not going to be a regular meeting, so we have a little bit of time, I would say, probably till September before we get the full results of that, but that's something we certainly can take through Board of Finances.
Right.
And we need to continue to prioritize.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Anything else?
Through the chair, yes, so you mentioned mill rate stabilization and the commodity contingency there. Are you envisioning all three being allocated as far as those two, and then I think you mentioned something else there, or just kind of trying to aim at one of those?
Nope, all three.
Okay.
So there's the Equipment Building Sinking Fund, which, how that works is as departments request capital outlay as part of the budget process, capital outlay would be kind of the more recurring items, like the police vehicles and any equipment that some of the departments might need. We don't budget for that in the mill rate, but what we use is we transfer funds into this Equipment Building Sinking Fund at the end of the year to fund most of those items. The amount that we need to transfer to that for this year is about $1.4 million. In addition to that, I'm looking at, we'll also be able to put some money in the Mill Rate Stabilization Reserve Fund and also that commodity reserve. And again, it will depend on what the final numbers are and how much where the Board of Finance wants to stay with the overall fund balance for the city. But I believe we'll be able to put into all three, yes.
And just for clarity for everybody too, the commodity fund is the only really newer
Yes.
fund, right? And that's because of what we've seen with rising fuel costs this past year, so.
Through the chair. As far as the commodity fund, what about for the Board of Education? And will you be recommending that the same thing happen? Well, you can control their surplus, so you can put that aside for them in the Board of Finance, correct?
Totally up for discussion, but I do know that the numbers that we're looking at do include the Board of Education.
Great, thank you.
So that one fund will take care of both, but where the money comes from is up for discussion.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. How about in the audience for any of the Board of Finance members? And how about on Zoom? Anybody have any questions or comments for Diane? Okay.
Thank
Diane,
you.
anything else? No?
Nope, I
We're
don't.
good.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to end a meeting on time, a joint meeting on time. I think we're going to have a little break before our next meeting. No other business to come before us, I assume?
Motion to approve.
I got
Adjourn.
Cheryl
She got
for
it.
the motion. Andrew, you'll give me the second?
Sure.
Good. All those in favor? We're adjourned. All right, it's 7 PM, so I'm going to call the city council meeting for August 10th, 2022 to order. And we'll start with the pledge. Does Oki do the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we are going to start our meeting tonight with a little bit of fun and a little bit of joy. Oki is already probably better known in this town than I am as the mayor, and has only been here for 3 or 4 days. But Oki has just been a great joy to the city thus far, and I think will offer an awful lot of comfort to a lot of people. So I just wanted to bring up Chris Hayden to say a few words about Oki, let us know how things are going, and introduce Oki to everybody officially.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council. I prepared a little speech here. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to thank each and one of you guys for your support for this program. This program means a lot to our department. I think this is going to be a very positive thing, not only for the city, but also our department. So far, it has been a huge success. Oki has brought a lot of attention over the past few days, not only to, like I said, the fire department and the city itself. Since getting here on Friday, she's already been featured on 3 of our local news stations, 8:30. She'll be on Channel 3 on Monday. Then she'll be on Channel 3 2 weeks from Monday. So we had a good meeting with Renee Danino today. She's been at the farmer's market. She's also had the opportunity to visit 2 day camps, one at Bristol Eastern for the Parks and Rec. She had the opportunity to visit today at the Bristol Boys and Girls Club, where I was able to introduce Oki to all the kids, but also get our fire education program out there for the kids. I lost my spot. We were also able to meet everybody at City Hall. Which one? Is it West, the one that you're at? Which one is that? East, yes. We were also to go down there and meet everybody down there today. Today we also received a donation from Doggy Wish, which is a new foundation that their goal is, they're a local organization, their goal is to grant one pet wish a week. This week we were lucky enough for it to be Oki. They also did receive a lot of attention on NBC 30 this afternoon. So hopefully that boosts up their public eye. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Jackie Olson for making a donation to Oki. It'll go a long way. But tonight I just want to introduce you guys, the council, the town, the city, to Oki. She's here for all of us. Hopefully she can bring a little bit of joy and happiness to each and every one of us if and when we need her, if you just want to stop by and meet her and say hi. But again, I'd like to thank the mayor, the council, the chief, the fire department, and our local union 773 for being behind this program. And of course, with us being the first fire department in the state to do this, I think it's going to be huge. I've already had a few departments reach out to me asking me about the program, how we got it started, who we used. So again, I can't thank you guys enough. I enjoy being a fireman for the last 17 years, and this has so far superseded that. It's so much fun. And now that she's going to be known throughout the town, if you guys don't follow her already, please follow her on social media. It's Oki the Fire Dog.
Do you know what she jumped up to, her numbers?
She's somewhere around the 600s or 700s right now, so not too bad. But again, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you giving me the time to introduce her. And if you got a minute, I'll walk her by you. If you guys don't, we can do it another day.
Nope, you can, you're more than welcome to do that,
Okay.
although it looks like Oki's had a long day.
Yeah. Is it true,
don't wanna text her.
is it true she can do drop, roll?
Stop, drop, and roll.
Stop, drop, and
drop,
roll.
roll.
We are working on that. She's getting there. It's going to be perfected by October. That's our goal, is when we go into the elementary schools. She's going to teach the kids, and I won't have to do it anymore. So.
Chief, you're not needed tonight. Oki's here.
And while she's walking around, I will say 600 Facebook likes. I'm a little bit worried that we're going to see Oki for mayor pretty soon, and have some challenge. Yeah. What's that? Oh, I'll put it over here. I think it's very cool that Oki is making the rounds too. So the Bristol Fire Department, since we've been here, has been very innovative. This is certainly a great first. And I also was there this morning, so it was nice to see that we were also able to highlight the first recruit training class this year as well too. So a lot of great things happening with the chief. I'm glad that we got this done. All right, Oki's going to go get some rest. Long day for Oki. We're going to move on now to agenda item number 2, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting on July 12th, 2022, and the special city council meeting and public hearing on July 26th, 2022.
Move to approve?
Second?
Any comments, discussion, changes, amendments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move into public participation now. I just want to remind folks that we are asked to be respectful in public participation. We look for you to speak for about 3 minutes. I will try to give you a little latitude to finish off at 3, but public participation is your time, and I hope that you'll all be to the point. And the first on my list is Andrew Rasmussen Teller. And Andrew, just state your name and address for the record.
All right, Andrew Rasmussen Teller, 75 Sturbridge Court, Bristol, Connecticut. So, good evening, Council and Mayor. So I just wanted to take this time to ensure members of the public are aware of the Connecticut Premium Pay Program, also known as the Heroes Pay Program. If you were employed in Connecticut as an essential worker between March 10th, 2020 and May 7th, 2020, so if you worked for a grocery store, manufacturing, anything that was essential during COVID, and you earned less than $150,000, you may be eligible for a one-time payment up to $1,000. Exclusions apply to federal, state, and municipal government employees. Applications will be accepted later this week, so the site is up. Application is still in the process being worked on. So that will become available later this week. The deadline to apply is October 1st, and payments are expected to be made in early 2023. So this will be a great thing to help with people who need it for tax time or that kind of stuff. So I'd like just to take this time to encourage all of Bristol residents who will qualify for this program and take advantage of it. It's a great program that's going to help a lot of people out during this time. So they can go right to ctessentialworkerrelief.org. And if anybody knows, I'm also running for state rep, so I also have it right on my website, and I will post updates about that as well. Okay? All right,
That's what I was getting ready to ask.
go for it. Yep, so it's ctessentialworker.org. So you can go right there. Very simple application process. It should be up and ready for the public later this week.
And you have the link on your page.
Yeah, I'm going to post it once it becomes available. I haven't posted it yet just because the link is inactive until later this week. So once it becomes available, I will also post it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank
Great.
you, guys.
Thank you. I have Michael Dudko next on my list.
Michael J. Dudko, 116 Lewis Road. Am I free to address any of the items in number 5? So I know sometimes you have blocks, it's only non-topic. In number 5,
You could
in number
address
12. Okay.
any topic you'd
In-
like. We
in
ask
12.
you to try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Right. Okay, first, 5F, I still disapprove of the city wanting to sell, wanting to change the line of lot number 8 in the southeast Bristol Business Park and able to sell. I know this is a passage from the Planning Commission. I was there, and they said that technically they couldn't even address the issues of contamination in deciding about moving line. I just still protest that idea that the city should take care of this property first. You're the landlord, you're the owner, and the contamination issues are your responsibility. Okay, that's 5F. 12A has to do with the number of councilmen and the Board of Education. I noticed there's an "and" in there. You've got to accept both conditions. I don't like increasing the Board of Education, but 23 years ago, I feel that my family was victimized by an all one-party council at that time, my extended family. I don't like that. I'm an unaffiliated voter, happily so, decidedly so. I always vote for 2 different party people for my councilmen. I don't want the domination of one party. 23 years ago, it was the Democrats. Today, it's the Republicans. What I understand of this 12A, it would increase when there's 2 of the same candidates that win. You'd have a third that was the non-party. I like that. I want that. I don't want one-party domination. And I have to accept the Board of Finance. 12B has to do with the term limits of a mayor. I like it with 2 years. 4 years is too long. I do not agree with a 4-year term for a mayor as a citizen. Okay, that takes care of that this week.
Thank you very much. We will be debating both of those last 2 topics, so I appreciate that. And I just wanted to give clarity. I think you meant Board of Finance when you said it the first time. You said Board of Education, but it is the Board of Finance, which is the reason they're linked is because we have in our charter that the Board of Finance has to be bigger than the City Council. But thank you. We will talk about that later. So thank you. Nikki Laporte, you're up next. And again, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, everyone. Nikki Laporte, 180 Lake Ave. First off, I just want to say that I am sorry that I swore at you all last month's meeting, but I am not sorry for how I made you all feel. I am not sorry that any of you were uncomfortable. You know who is uncomfortable every day in Bristol? Underrepresented groups and marginalized populations. And speaking of marginalized populations, it baffles me that some of you were upset over the Palestinian flag in this room last month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share something about myself that maybe isn't obviously clear when looking at me. I'm a woman who puts my money where my mouth is. And as such, I spent 3 summers working and living in the Jenin refugee camp in Jenin, Palestine, occupied West Bank. I was surrounded by people who looked different, and by every conservative American media outlet would be classified as terrorists without a second thought. My very Republican, Rush Limbaugh-loving father said the first year I left, "How can you go to a country that doesn't exist?" Then I shared my story with him. The second year I left, he said, "I hope you enjoy your trip." That's growth. If he can listen to my lived experience, you can too. And I'm happy to take any member here on the council or anybody here for public speaking and to watch out for coffee to discuss my time there. I wasn't once terrorized as perhaps my poor father figured I would be. Instead, I was welcomed into homes by people who had hardly anything, yet offered me everything they had. I brought joy to those kids in that camp and taught them a new way of expressing themselves through the performing arts that did not continue the ever-loving cycle of violence. Ana ma bakhaf min eshi, which in Jenin dialect Arabic means, I fear nothing. So last meeting, if any of you were scared, if you are scared, if you are uncomfortable, good. Sit with that discomfort and know that we won't stop until any of you and all of you are on the right side of history or someone who is replaces you. Because Bristol is all heart, not no backbone. Myself and others have given this administration chance after chance to do the right thing, so that time is up and it's time to make a stand with us or continue to feel the pressure. And I promise anger brings people out to the polls. And now it's your turn to apologize. Stand up and say you are sorry for pandering to a base of bigots, racists, and fools. Stand up for marginalized populations right here in our beautiful and diverse city. Stop with the blatant inactions, because by doing nothing, you are standing with those that want to cause harm to people who have suffered already. Doing nothing puts you on the wrong side of history. Doing nothing only furthers my hypothesis that you are a spineless and pathetic excuse of a human. Your lack of a backbone has brought forth this anger from myself and other residents here in Bristol. Do the right thing.
Up next is Kathy Johnson.
Kathleen Johnson, 260 Baldwin Drive in Bristol. I'm actually here to talk about the dog pound. I'm president of Animal Rescue Foundation in Terryville, and in 2008, we suffered a devastating fire and our shelter burned to the ground. I was lucky enough to be laid off for 4 years, so I actually helped rebuild the kennel we have today. I would love to offer my assistance in the rebuild of the new dog pound. It's atrocious. I visited all dog pounds and shelters throughout Connecticut, and our pound is probably one of the worst. An example, we took a dog last week, a little pit named Molly from the pound. They sit in their own urine. When we took her, her paws were all swollen and infected from sitting in the urine. She also has a UTI. She came to us, we gave her a bath, we got her up to date with vaccines, and now she's doing much better. So I'd really, really like to be on that committee. I think we need to rebuild. Our pound is embarrassing to our city.
Thank you very much. I'll just add to you that
Please.
we don't necessarily have a specific building committee for the dog pound, but through the Department of Public Works meetings, I'll encourage you to get involved and certainly reach out to us. I have to say that I think Cheryl is our dog pound kind of
Hi,
expert.
Cheryl.
So
I would love
get
to.
to know Cheryl
Okay.
and continue to work through her. So
Okay.
we
Thank
are
you very
committed
much.
to making action happen on the dog pound.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Please do. We have 3 quotes that we're starting to go over. We're waiting for formal plans,
Mm-hmm.
then to make a decision. Things take time.
Right.
But I do want to take action on what you mentioned because there's got to be a way to prevent that dog from being in its own excrement and its own urine before we even have a pound. So I promise you we'll look into that.
Well, the reason why it is because the floors aren't
Right.
pitched. They
Right.
need to be pitched, and none of them
Yeah.
are.
And so but there could be a workaround, is what I'm saying. Maybe there's a workaround.
I hope so, and I hope
So-
you call me. Again, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here for the dogs.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. I don't have anybody else signed up. Is there anybody in the audience that didn't get a chance to sign up that would like to speak? Take karaoke. How about on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom? Oh, sorry, I didn't miss the hand. Come on up to the microphone. Sorry, didn't see you back there. And just state your name and address for the record for me.
Patricia Yulin, 21 Jerome Avenue. I'm president of Friends of the Bristol, Connecticut Animal Shelter.
Can you do
And-
the address again? Sorry, I don't know if they got it. I
21
didn't.
Jerome Avenue.
Got it.
And I just wanted to speak on a couple things. First of all, we've had one ACO on duty since May, and that's atrocious. He's working 7 days a week, and there's no way that he can possibly stay, be able to do that job with his heart in it 7 days a week. He has to be exhausted. I don't know what the delay is in getting another ACO in, but June, July, August, it's too long to be waiting for a second ACO. Plus, he's going on vacation in September, so it's really important for you to know that we hope somebody's in there, or else you're not going to have anybody. So
Yep.
That's first of all. And second of all, just so that you guys are aware, on Friday morning at 8 o'clock, we're going to have NBC Connecticut at the Pound doing their Clear the Shelters
Oh, yeah, I saw.
event. So we're going to have some publicity on the air for the Pound, and hopefully we'll get more adopters in that way.
And that was 8 a.m. you said on Friday?
I'm sorry?
8 a.m. on Friday you said?
8 a.m. Friday.
Thank you.
yes.
Great.
That's all.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Last call in council chambers here, Board of Ed chambers. Anybody on Zoom wish to speak under public participation?
Hi, I wanted to speak.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. So Jamie Bianca, 197 Glendale Drive for the record. And I wanted to talk about, while I had the opportunity during public participation, agenda item 12A. So talking about increasing the number of city council members in each district to 3 people and to add minority party representation. And I just wanted to talk about why I'm in favor of increasing the number of council members and for minority party representation. So my math might be a little off, so I apologize, but going off of the 2020 census, Bristol's population was 60,833, which means that with 6 city council members, each council member is going to represent a little over 10,000 people, and that's already a lot of people. Bristol is the 13th largest city in the state of Connecticut, and if we're able to increase our number of city council members, then that lowers the number to about 6,000, a little over 6,000 constituents for each city council member. And I know that's still a high number, but I think if we're able to increase our number of city council members, that it's definitely going to help with transparency and really getting to know our council members as constituents. I know there's the argument that, some people say they don't want to increase local government and they want to keep local government small. But the way I see it is that with more city council members, and we aren't talking about adding 20, just adding 3, then that's going to be a huge help for diversity of thought and diversity of opinion. And where we get our news and where we get our sources and what we hear and who we talk to as constituents is so different. So if we're able to have that minority party representation, have that diversity of thought, have that diversity of opinion, it's going to be really important with several issues going forward locally. And also, some people might be more comfortable with some city councilors than others. They might get closer to some city councilors than others. So having more city council members is going to be a fantastic opportunity for people to really be able to connect with city council members and constituents, to connect with them. Also, really quickly, I work at Bristol Central in the AVID program. I am a tutor, and something that we do in the program is called Socratic Seminars, where we have a topic and our students actually debate. And we teach our students to share their opinions respectfully and kindly, and similarly to what happens in local government and government meetings as a whole. And I really care about our youth, and I really want our city council to reflect our youth, right? And to show our youth that, we come from different backgrounds and we may come from different parties, but all of our opinions matter, and we're going to say our opinions kindly and respectfully, and we're going to listen to each other. So that's something that we do, in our AVID program, and it's proved to be very successful. And if we're able to model that in our own city council, I know that's something that our youth they're really going to appreciate it. So thank you so much for allowing me to share my comments.
Thank you, Jamie. Was Jamie the only one that messaged there that wanted to speak to? Anybody else on Zoom? I just couldn't see the top of that. So, anybody else on Zoom? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to number 4, which is announcements. And I'm going to start on my right this time. Jolene, do you have any announcements?
No, I don't.
Cheryl, announcements?
No.
Andrew, announcements?
We have the Bristol Early Childhood Alliance is hosting a walk and talk night with Bristol's parent ambassadors. The help make Bristol better by coming up with some questions, concerns, and ideas you may have to share with other parents. They also have on August 16th, it's World Breastfeeding Day. Join the celebration with others in Bristol's community. The event is being held at the public library in the children's section. Parks has a very full calendar. First, they will be showing Disney hit Encanto this Friday at 8 p.m. inside the amphitheater. The Giamatti Center has a training competitive swimming August 15th through the 19th from 3 to 5. And then on that same week, they also have a mountain bike club going for youth to hone their knowledge and skill. It's all open to all skill levels. August 22nd from 4:30 to 6:30, they have the 11th annual Pooch Plunge. Please make sure your dogs are socially well-behaved. Dogs must have current vaccinations and tags and must be older than 6 months. Finally, the Bristol Green Team is being held on the Memorial Boulevard this Saturday at 9 a.m., and that will be the last of them. Oh, one more, I forgot, one important one. On August 25th from 5 to 7, the mayor's pencil, what are we calling it? Pencil Hunt is going on at Muzzy Field. They will have numbers, timing, it's from 5 to 7, but it's broken down by age group. That's it. Good.
The 25th, right?
25th.
August 20th.
What day is it?
I believe it's a
I want to say it's a
Sunday.
Thursday, I think. Thursday. Great. Jackie?
Thank you, Mayor. Every 3 years, the Department of Public Health inspects the water system serving the city of Bristol. The inspection conducted in July of this year indicated no minor or significant deficiencies were identified, and this is the same as the inspection 3 years prior. So that's great news for the city of Bristol. The Senior Center will be hosting their first pasta dinner, which will be open to the public. And the first one is on September 15th. It's from 5 to 6:30. Tickets go on sale August 22nd. There's 150 tickets available. They're $8 a piece, and they can be purchased at the Senior Center between 8:30 and 5 p.m. Future dinners will be the second Thursday of the month. And last, I just wanted to say, anyone who's interested in making a donations for Oki, the fire dog, you should make your checks out payable to the Bristol Fire Department, and in the memo, put Oki, the fire dog. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Sebastian?
Thank you, Mayor. The Friends of the Bristol Public Library have announced their guests for this year's author luncheon to take place at the Bristol DoubleTree, and they have a pretty big guest this year. It's two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning author Colson Whitehead. The luncheon is Thursday, October 20th at the DoubleTree. Doors open at 11:30 for lunch, presentation, and a book signing to follow. Tickets went on sale just a few days ago at the beginning of this month. They're $35 a piece at the library or via mail, a mail-in form on the library website. So hopefully it's a good event. A lot of people can be able to get there, and a good crowd for the Friends of the Library.
Thank you, Sebastian. Sue, any announcements?
Just one quick one, a reminder that the West End Association Festival at Rockwell Park is on Saturday, August 20th, running from 10 to 6. Lots of fun activities, probably going to be very well attended again. This is their first time holding the festival since COVID hit. And, stop on down to Rockwell Park and enjoy a great festival.
Good? Yep, thanks. Sue, you had one? Cheryl, sorry. Sue
Yes.
is done.
I'm sorry, I got an email today, so if anybody had purchased a ticket for this Thursday's Best First Annual Celebration, A Story of Hope, they are having to need to postpone the event, and they were looking for October. So that was to be this Thursday. This is through the Drug-Free Communication Projects Coordinator, which is part of the Parks Department. Their dinner Thursday has been postponed, so if you bought a ticket, please check in with the Parks Department and with the Best Group, and they will announce that date.
And I have actually two. I wanted to, first of all, thank the council for stepping in and doing opening ceremonies for the Edgewood Little League. It's actually East Region Little League World Series. You can see that on ESPN Plus now. Great tournament. Actually, Fairfield played again today, too. I didn't hear how they did. They won. Oh, good. So they're moving forward. That goes through this weekend, nationally recognized. There was actually a great story today about one of the other regions where a player got hit, and it was just a heartwarming story. So it's fun to watch them. You know, Bristol has had this for many years, and it's a great family event. So I encourage you to follow at least the Connecticut team, if not the others from New England and Mid-Atlantic also play here, regional tournaments. The other thing that I want to remind people about is a fundraising event for the Carousel Museum. This is an annual tradition that if you have never been to the Crocodile Club dinner, it's not really a dinner, it's a luncheon, but it's a sheep dinner. It is this Friday. It starts at 11 a.m., and you can get tickets at thecarouselmuseum.org. It is a major statewide election season, and there are quite a few candidates and elected officials that should be there. A very fun event usually. The participants are not going to roast themselves as much as Mike Reese, who is a Bristol resident, who is going to be kind of the keynote roaster, and Shackman, what's his first name? Brian Shackman, sorry, from TIC will be the host. So very fun event, long-standing tradition in Bristol. If you haven't been, certainly worth checking out the Crocodile Club. That's all I have. Anybody have any other announcements? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda, items A through F. Does anybody have anything that they would like to withdraw from the consent agenda? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to number 6, which is reports and committee reports. We'll start with 6A, which is the real estate committee. And Sue, it's up to you.
Yes. Okay. For the real estate committee, we do have a lot listed for sale a city-owned lot up on 12 Waterbury Road. This has actually been on the market for a period of time. We have had some difficulties with the way that the lot, the size of the lot that we owned. There was a fence on our lot, and we kind of had to get some things straightened away. So I think that was also why we didn't have great luck in the very beginning. So now it's been on the market for a little while, and we received a recommendation from our realtor, from Bottom Line Realty, to extend the listing contract and also to, reduce the listing price. So I have a motion. I hereby move that the City of Bristol enter into a 6-month exclusive right to sell listing contract with Bottom Line Realty to sell lot number 12, Waterbury Road, and to reduce the listing price from $34,900 to $29,900. I further move that this matter be referred to the Corporation Council to prepare and/or review any necessary documents. I further move that the mayor or acting mayor be authorized to execute any necessary documents to effectuate the same.
Second.
Jackie seconds. Any further comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Any other real estate? I don't think so.
Else on the real estate.
Okay, we got a couple on ordinance, right? So we'll let you go there next.
Okay. I believe we just have one on ordinance. Okay. Mr. Mayor, in accordance with Section 21F of the Charter of the City of Bristol, I hereby move that the reading of the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinance be introduced to this date pertaining to Chapter 13, licenses and miscellaneous business regulations be waived. This is in regards to cannabis sales.
Yep. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, let's do the motion to introduce the ordinances then.
Okay. In accordance with Section 21F of the Charter of the City of Bristol, the following amendments to the Code of Ordinances are hereby introduced. I hereby move that the time and place of September 6th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in the Bristol Public Library, 5 High Street, Bristol, Connecticut, be set for the holding of a public hearing whereon by the Ordinance Committee, and that the city clerk publish said notice of said public hearing and the proposed amendments to the Code of Ordinances as required by the city charter.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Sebastian has a second. Let's just discuss this a little bit too, Sue, to make sure people know how this is going to work. This will be a highly debated item, I'm sure, in town on legalizing recreational use of cannabis is going to affect the city. So September 6th will be the first public hearing. If we need a second public hearing, we could do that. I don't know if we've come up with a second date on that. I know you and I talked about that before.
We don't have a second.
Okay,
date.
that's fine.
I guess my question maybe for Corporation Council, or Mayor, maybe you know the answer, is our first hearing date is September 6th. If we were to need a second public hearing or / workshop, would we have to wait till the city council meeting on the 13th to be able to schedule a second one? Or would we be able to,
Good question
moving
for
forward
Attorney
after the
Conlon.
6th, determine that?
Yep.
Sure, you would have to bring it back to the council to set another public hearing, because that's the process by
Yep.
charter.
And I think the timing is fine because we'll have the public hearing on the 6th. If we find that we need another one, we're going to be back meeting again on the 13th. And to your point, I just want to make sure it's clear to everybody that we get the sense from the state that the licenses for adult recreational use marijuana will start to come out in the late October, November time range. They have certainly said by the end of the year. So that will give us enough time to make sure that we can get this back to City Council for approval, hopefully in the October meeting timeframe. So I think we'd be good with that. Thanks, Attorney Conlon. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, through the chair. Have we thought about going to a larger facility? Also the library has earlier closing hours. This could go for some length. And, I feel that maybe if we could consider one of the high school auditoriums, it might give us a little bit more flexibility that, gives everybody the chance to speak. a little bit, even though, timing them to the 3 minutes. At our regular ordinance meeting, we had almost 2 hours worth of testimony, and that was not announced as necessarily a public hearing.
Yep. A couple things on that. First, just to clarify, the library does close at 8, but we have the ability to go as long as we need to in the library for city meetings, so we've made that agreement. Secondly, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, but Sue and I actually just talked about this before, is the regular meeting place for ordinance has been at the library, so I think that's the reason that the chair made that decision. And the third thing is the acoustics were not great. The microphone wasn't set up right, but we need to fix that for all meetings, so we'll get that fixed for September 6th. So it's duly noted, and we'll see how it goes. If that room is pretty large, meeting room 3, so I think it would be appropriate at this point. So,
Thank you.
But understand your concern, and we'll see how people show up. We'll get a sense. Any other discussion on just the motion to set up the public hearing? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Sue, you don't have any other business? We can do committee reports after, if you want, unless there's...
I do have code enforcement.
Yep, but
Is
hang
that
on
after?
one second. I just want to make sure that nobody has any, I like to do the actual, anything that we have motions or business that came from your committees. Do we have any of those? I don't think so. All right, Sue, go ahead. Code enforcement report for the month.
Okay, let's see. I'm really excited. We have been making much progress with our code enforcement program. Several pieces of the team, we have been really kind of hammering things out, getting things on track, and I really commend the mayor for working with all of the department heads involved and corporation counsel and all of the different departments, because I really do think that we're kind of getting code enforcement moving in the right direction. And if code enforcement is moving in the right direction, properties are getting cleaned up, people are obeying the ordinances in the city of Bristol, and it's only going to benefit our city. So for tonight, I have just a couple of numbers. This is, we're kind of still getting our format down and how to record certain numbers, so I apologize for the very few numbers, but I just kind of wanted to give people a sense of what some of the activity is right now. In July of 2022, there were 32 letters sent out for tall grass. So, you might be driving around the city, or maybe you have a neighbor and you think that they're not mowing their lawn as quickly as they should. We actually do have, Martha will take in all tall grass complaints, and those are actually looked into. Letters are sent out to property owners. I think they have 10 days, Mayor, and with the hopes that, they get their lawn cared for. So I don't have the total number of tall grass complaints, but I do know it's higher than the 32. The 32 were the ones where the people didn't immediately take care of their grass and letters had to go out. Out of those 32, 6 of them were sent to BARC, which has like a little group that the city can call on to come out and help a citizen who has tall grass who maybe, we're just talking about tall grass. We're not talking about weeds overtaking a whole entire yard. And they can actually come out, and the city of Bristol pays for it, and then it goes back to the property owner for them to make us whole on. Also, in July, we had 8 blighted properties, 8 blighted reports that were given to the zoning department. And out of those 8, there were 6 where letters were sent out and it's still being worked on. 1 was actually resolved, and there was a verbal. And I don't have, on the 8th one, I'm not quite sure. It says none, so I don't know if a letter went out or not. But this is the first set of numbers, and we hope to kind of expand that and just to be able to give everybody a better sense of what's going on. Also, in code enforcement, I do have a motion Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that the assessor authorizes the freeze assessment of rehabilitated properties. And the two addresses that I have this evening is 46 Madison Drive and 381 Waterbury Road.
Mayor, can we also have a motion to bring it up on the floor?
Yep, that'll be good. So let's do a motion first to bring it on the floor. Cheryl?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So read the motion again if you don't mind. It'll be official.
Make a motion to have the assessor authorize the freeze assessment of rehabilitated properties to include 46 Madison Drive and 381 Waterbury Road.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I think Andrew won that one. All right, so yeah, this is when we have properties that are under disrepair, we give them some tax abatements to go ahead and bring these properties back online so that they're officially paying taxes.
Actually, these properties have had some experience with code enforcement.
Yep.
And when the property is purchased and like rehabbed, it is a benefit to the people who now buy these blighted properties that have had a history with code enforcement. It's a great incentive to get our blighted properties cleaned up. What the new owner who has increased the property value gets is a 5-year assessment freeze from where it was at the time that they bought the blighted property.
Yep, and we get properties back on the tax roll, which is good for all of our citizens. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Cheryl.
Just through the chair, I saw some of the pictures. Thank you for sharing those. One of them especially, you wouldn't recognize it. They look amazing. And so it's really kudos to the department for keeping, that under, having that happen. And they look stunning. The rehabilitation is stunning.
Thank you, Cheryl. Anybody else have any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Sue?
I think that's it.
Nope. Thank you. And I just want to make a little extra additional comment on the code enforcement side. I know that the first report that we've had may not be 100% complete. We are working to make sure that we keep the city beautified and that we hold everybody accountable to the zoning and code enforcement and blight regulations that we have. And we've made great progress post-COVID now. And I give kudos to the whole team on that, so thank you. So that'll be a regular report from Sue every month. Sebastian, any reports from you, from your committees?
Nothing to report this month.
Thank you, Sebastian. Jackie?
Nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Andrew?
I just got a couple. The school readiness, obviously, we don't meet in the summer, but we are happily announcing the winners of the fire truck raffle held on June 16th. The 2 lucky winners were chosen by the mayor and fire chief to ride in their first day of kindergarten on a fire truck. 383 students were registered for the kindergarten on time and were entered into the drawing. Kaylani Barrett and Max Shepard are the lucky winners. Kaylani is at Edgewood and Max is at Green Hill School. Finally, if you're looking for a high-quality preschool experience for your child, you can reach out to any of these school readiness funded full day available. The Bristol Childhood Development Center, the Imagination, the Early Learning Center, and there are half days at Bristol Public Schools, all available. On the Parks Board, I don't know if you've driven down on South Street or the Boulevard lately, but the tennis courts are now on their way from being removed and a community garden will be taking its place. We had the 3rd annual community conversation. The event was well-tended. I'd like to thank Kiana Anderson from the Parks Board for planning the event, and I want to thank Kimura, you give me that? Liella?
Yep.
Okay, from Kimura's Corner for being our guest speaker for the night. The Parks Department also had the clearing out tag sale, and all the money that they raised went to the Parent and Childhood Center. Just one last thing. I want to give a big thank you to the Bristol Blues, Jordy and his staff for making a summer wonderful for us Bristol residents. They went 32-12. Were unfortunately knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. But like I said to Jeff a little while ago, like a true Red Sox fan, there's always next year. So, I'm done.
And by the way, back to the Blues, so first round of the playoffs, but it was the semifinals, so they don't have many rounds of playoffs, so we got to give them credit. And it was a tremendous season, a kind of a comeback season for them post-COVID, so hopefully many more great seasons ahead. Thank you, Andrew. No, it's great, very great. Cheryl.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple updates. The Transportation Committee met. A couple things of note. We are going from a quarterly meeting to meeting every other month. We have a lot of issues we want to get resolved and take action on. One of the items that we talked about is working with the Commission on Disabilities about partnering on a transportation forum later this fall that is being put together. So more information and dates will be announced next month. We did make a decision to recommend moving one of the bus stops from in front of the McDonald's to Hope Street in anticipation of making that kind of like a transportational hub so that people can get off one bus, connect to another easily instead of having to run down the street around the corner and off to McDonald's and maybe miss their bus. And so those are the announcements from transportation. Our next meeting is 9/27 at the library at 6:30. Public Works, this meeting will be a workshop, basically, as the Public Works team will be touring the City Hall, the renovations, and having an update as to the project. So we'll have more to share following that. And I know we still have some interested parties on the dog pound in the audience, and they may have missed some earlier communication, but we are starting to receive the bids. Well, we have received numbers. We're looking to receive the report so that we can study this in depth of options for renovations, either renovating or building new and the different options that that involves. And we'll be discussing them thoroughly in our September meeting, although between now and then, there'll be a lot of questions going back and forth between those of us who are looking at these plans and these estimates. So I just wanted to thank our Public Works Director, Ray, for the outstanding work and keeping this, pushing the engineers on this project. And he's taken quite a vested interest in this, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Great. And if you don't mind, I just want to dovetail a little bit on the transportation meeting. I appreciate you guys stepping that up. We'll have a lot of different transportation issues in the downtown area, and there's a lot of good news to this. It's kind of a shameless plug for the bi-carrier group that is going to build between Hope Street and McDonald's. One of the big reasons to move that actual bus stop in front of McDonald's is that's going to be the entryway into their two buildings. So they have changed their plan of development, which may delay them a month or two through planning, but they're going to build two buildings that are 4 stories high rather than three-story buildings, improve their own parking, and we look forward to seeing that soon. So the Transportation Committee is going to be very important to make some of those changes. So thank you very much for stepping that up. Jolene, any reports?
No, none at this month.
Or committees? We good? All right. We will move on to number 7, which is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? I don't think so. Nope. And new business. I think, Cheryl, you have one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to bring a resolution to authorize the mayor to award and to contract with subrecipients for the distribution of ARPA funds.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So
Yes.
now it'll be a resolution, correct?
Thank you. Yes. Whereas on March 11th, 2021, the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, was signed into law by the President. ARPA established the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund and the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, ARPA funds. The Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds were established to provide support to local governments to respond to the impacts of COVID-19 on communities, residents, and businesses, and whereas Section 602C1 and 603C2 provides that the funds may be used to, A, to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries in such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. B, to respond to workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency by providing premium pay to eligible workers. C, for the provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 public health emergency relative to revenues collected in the most recent full fiscal year prior to the emergency. And D, to make necessary investment in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And whereas the City of Bristol has been awarded some such funds and established a 15-member ARPA task force comprised of appointed members from the community to help determine how these funds will be distributed to the benefit of the Bristol community. Now, therefore, the City Council hereby authorizes the mayor or acting mayor to award ARPA funds to subrecipients in the amounts determined by the ARPA task force and to execute such documents as required and approved by Corporation Council to effectuate such awards in a manner consistent with federal law.
That was a mouthful. Is there a second? You did well. Great. A quick discussion on this. Go ahead. You can explain why we have this.
Basically, if you recall in a prior meeting, we did, as a council, approve the ARPA funds. We reviewed the reports presented by the ARPA committee. This, we just felt, was a little bit more necessary to indicate that we had this fiduciary responsibility in using federal funds and that we state they were federal funds that were assigned to us to distribute and to make that clarification clear.
Yeah, and maybe for me to put it simply as we had approved that I could sign the contracts, but we really didn't talk much about the money part of it. And now we're signing these contracts and we just wanted to make sure that we're crossing Ts and dotting Is. So any questions from anybody else? Comments?
Can you read it again?
Yep, this will be a roll call vote through Therese, when you're ready.
Yes. Yes.
Tebow? Howe?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Paniotto?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Caught you off guard, no worries. All right. Any other new business? Therese, can you do resignations for us? Number 9.
Certainly. Your Honor, there are 3 resignations this month. The first is Renardo Ortiz from the Inland Wetlands Commission. The second is Jack Ferraro from the Energy Commission. And the third is David Roche from the Board of Ethics.
Great, thanks.
Make a motion to put those on file and send a thank you note to each of the participants for their service.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Great, we're going to move on to appointments. A little bit of a lengthy list here, but we'll get through this as quickly as we can. So first is the Building Code Board of Appeals. I'll entertain a motion to reappoint Bruce Lightham to a 5-year term that expires on 8/27.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Next is Diversity Council to replace Alicia Washington with Allison Willett, and there is no term on Diversity Council.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And Jolene has one. This is Board of Ethics through the 1st Council District, is why she has this one. Go ahead,
I
Jolene.
have a motion to replace David Roche with John Bellamar.
We need a second.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Green Hills School Building Project Committee to replace John Skalinka with Russell Anderson. Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jackie and Sebastian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Housing Code of Appeals Board to replace Orlando Calfee with Thomas Mera, unexpired term to 12/31/23.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Northeast Middle School Building Committee. So we need to replace Tommy Berube with David Hartley. That's a citizen taxpayer in that school area served. There's no term on this. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Teresa, I didn't ask you this earlier, but there's a lot of these here. We have a bunch that are reappoint, replace, and then one kind of new. Can we do them all together? Okay, good. So I'm just going to read them out here. We are going to reappoint Andrew Howe, which is the mayor designee, unexpired term to 8/23. We're going to reappoint Ezra Reddick, superintendent designee, unexpired to 8/23. Reappoint Valerie Toner, public librarian, unexpired term to 8/23. Reappoint Susan Lee, MD. She's the healthcare provider, pediatrician, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Cecile Garay McKinney-Vento, who is the liaison, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Amber Lipscomb, representative of workforce or training entity, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Tatiana Garcia, representative from a local business, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Valerie Pelletier, representative from a local program, she's from Head Start, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Alyssa McGee, Wheeler Clinic representative, ECCP, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Donna Kozer, Bristol Early Childhood Alliance Coordinator, she has an unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Kristen Peck, BOE SPED Supervisor of the Pre-K and SPED Program, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Lauren Kittle, parent and employee of a parent and child program, unexpired term to 8/23. Reappoint Sarah Holmes, FRC, West Bristol School K through K8, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Brenda Moore, Bristol Housing Authority Community Representative, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Siri Gilmore, Parent Representative and graduate of PLTI, unexpired term to 8/23. To reappoint Jennifer St. John, Parent and Parent Ambassador, unexpired term 8/23. To reappoint Maureen Eaton, Parent, unexpired term to 8/23. To replace Karen Lombardi with Sarah Garrett. She is the WIC nutritionist. That's an unexpired term to 8/23. We're also going to replace Kathy Plord with Aaron Hamilton. That's the BBHD representative, unexpired term to 8/23. Almost there. To replace Joyce Voisin with Wendy McGrath, Tunxus Early Childhood, unexpired term to 8/23. And finally, to appoint Leah Zakaukis, who is a local provider, including the state that has gotten state funding. That's an unexpired term to 8/23. We do this once a year, so that's kind of good because that was a long time. I'll entertain a motion to do all of those.
So moved.
Andrew gets the motion, Jackie gets the second. It's Andrew's committee, that's why I give it to him. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Two more, we're getting there. Replace, on the Southside School HVAC Upgrades Building Committee, we're going to replace John Skalinka with Russell Anderson. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And finally, our wonderful tax collector that has the numbers over 99% is reappoint Ann Bednez to a 4-year term that expires 8/26.
Move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're done for the evening. We still do have some open boards and commissions. Oh, wait, maybe we're not done for the evening. We're actually going to hold off on that one, Therese. David Ryan, just to let everybody else know on the board here too, because we had talked about that. He's a Plainville resident, and we didn't know that at first, but he has expertise in HIV. He wants to provide that to us, so he'll be sending that to us, and he does want to chair that committee, so we're expecting to do that in September. But thank you for checking. Appreciate that. All right, no further appointments. We get to move on to number 11. Teresa, if you want to read this one for us, that'd be great. Give me a break.
Approval of grant application to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Statewide Emergency Telecommunications Grant Program for $28,900 to remove and replace 2 HVAC units on the Willis Street site, and to authorize the mayor, acting mayor, chief of police, or deputy chief of police to execute any necessary documents.
You need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move item 14 up to on the agenda, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Tom, this was for you. Sorry about that. We probably could have done a little earlier, but we were talking about it.
We
Thanks.
just felt, I did this because we felt that item 12 might be at some length, and I, have our tax assessor sit through all that. I want to give him a chance to present and maybe be able to slip home, so.
Yep. So this is, go ahead. Can you go ahead and do
Sure.
that for us? Yep.
We're going to change this to, I'd like to bring to the table the litigation matter of Festival Fun Parks LLC versus City of Bristol Superior Court, docket number HHB-CV-21-6066208-S.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so so it's up to the table, and Tom, do you want to come up and just give a little explanation of this? And while he's coming up, we didn't necessarily need to move this into executive session, so we're saving you that, Tom, because we had already authorized Attorney Conlon, and he's going to report to us what we have at this point, what we're going to vote on.
Sure, thank you. This is a personal property tax appeal taken by Festival Fun Parks. We were able to resolve it by stipulation, not by reducing value, but by using a statute that is germane really only to this property, which allows us to abate property taxes by really providing a rebate against what we have assessed. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're abating personal property taxes owed on the 20 and 21 grand lists, $25,000 and $20,000 for a total of $45,000. That's the stipulation that we have before you tonight. I'd like you
Great.
to adopt it.
Great.
And I have a motion for you as well.
Okay. If you can give us a motion, that'd be great, and then we'll have somebody read the motion, and we can discuss further if we need to.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I move that the litigation matter of Festival Fun Parks LLC versus City of Bristol Superior Court docket number HHB-CV-21-6066028-S be resolved by stipulation to judgment pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes Section 12-81P, whereby the city shall abate the personal property taxes owned on the October 1, 2020 grand list by the amount of $25,000, and the October 1st, 2021 grand list by the amount of $20,000. I further move that the Corporation Counsel or Assistant Corporation Counsel be authorized to execute the stipulated judgment on behalf of the City of Bristol.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Any other questions or comments? I know that we had talked about this in a previous executive session, so I think we're good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you to Attorney Conlon. So now we're going to go back up to number 12. And I'll just read this broadly for everybody. So we're going to consider the proposed amendments to the city charter as referenced in now the final report of the Charter Revision Commission. And there are 5 different parts of the report that came back to us. We had some public participation on this, so thank you for those that participated for sitting in and waiting on this. We'll do 12A first. I think you have that one, Jackie.
I do. I move to reject increasing the membership of the city council from 2 to 3 members per district through multi-party representation, and increasing the membership of the Board of Finance from 8 to 11 members.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's discuss this one. Jackie, you brought the motion forward, so I'll let you speak first.
Yeah, I just think that we need to keep the government small and not make it any bigger. It just complicates things, and I think that I believe that everything can be resolved with the number that we have now.
Great, thanks. Any other comments? We'll start with my left and go across. How's that? Go ahead, Sue.
When this first issue was brought up, I completely support minority representation. I do not think that, even though we're leaving it up to the voters, I don't think that it should be 100% any one party affiliation. But I also don't think that increasing I just don't think that by increasing the numbers of city councilors this is the right way to achieve that goal. I would be all for, and I don't know what the answer is, but if there was some other way to kind of get to having representation from both sides, that would be ideal, but I just don't think it's by increasing the number.
Appreciate that. Sebastian?
Yeah, I agree. I know we spoke about this a little bit before at the previous meeting. I think they piqued my interest a little bit when they spoke about council members at large. That was something that they explored a little bit, but I guess there were some hurdles there. That may be something, we could look into in the future. I know, we heard before about representing a certain number of Bristol residents, and I mean, I take it that we represent all Bristol residents regardless of what the issue is. I know that we're, specific to districts. And then just back to my points before about the town committees really being major players in selecting who the city council members are, and getting voters to the polls when we talk about voting during these local elections. If they realize that the majority of these candidates on the ballot are already going to be elected, or 3 out of 4, I think that if people recognize that their voice is going to be heard in some manner, then they will not come out to the polls to vote in the municipal election. So that's where I'm coming from with it, and that's why I disagree with it.
Great. Thank you, Sebastian. Jackie, anything else to add?
Yeah, may I add? I don't object to having multi-party representation as far as, having Democrats and Republicans on the city council. My only objection is increasing the size of the government. And so, we can leave it up to the voters. You have that option to vote for a Democrat, not always just one party. So that's all I needed to add. Thank you.
Andrew?
We already leave this vote up to the voters. They walk in the booth, they choose 2 people to elect for the council. They're not walking in to choose 3. So I strongly against, especially what Jackie said with larger government and the choices that the public make. When this goes on a ballot, if that's what they so choose, then I will get behind them and support them. Otherwise, right now, I do not. I agree with the rejection.
Cheryl?
Okay, when we discussed this at our special meeting, I was the holdout, and there's a couple things that I'd like to preface with that first. There are some great comments that, my colleagues up here have brought up. And I used the example before of the ARPA task force. It was a 15-member task force. The reason they were successful is they broke into subcommittees. They had a nonprofit subcommittee, they had a for business, they had city. And so those smaller groups of 6 people, 5 or 6 people, did the due diligence, they did the research, they came back, and they did great research. I listened to the nonprofit subcommittee meetings. I made just about every one of them on Zoom, and they did their due diligence. They asked a lot of questions, but they brought their decisions to the entire committee, and so each committee respected the group's decision. I think if you had to have 15 people try to come to consensus, it's a lot harder. And when we're talking 20 to approve a budget, because you'd have 9 on council, 11 on the Board of Finance, I'm not quite sure how that would end up. And so sometimes more doesn't always lead to the better decision. That said, however, we did ask the Charter Reform Committee to look at this. They gave us a recommendation, and I will vote to approve it, so I'll be a nay, because I want to give this to the voters to decide if they want to go with this. So those are my thoughts that I wanted to share.
Thanks. Jolene, anything to add?
Not really. I agree with Sue, Sebastian, Jackie, Andrew. I agree with all of them. Sometimes bigger isn't better. Less government, for sure. If you have too many cooks in the kitchen, sometimes it gets really out of control. So I'm going to go with rejecting it.
And I'll just add a couple of things from a higher level as well, too, that the public should know, that we had a really collegial working experience with the Charter Revision Commission. We made a promise to them that we will impanel another charter revision commission, and we did ask them to look at this. We started a little late as we all just got elected, so I think they need more time. That's one of the big things that I took away. I'm kind of in agreement with the one thing that Cheryl talked about was the Board of Finance being linked to this. And for some of the comments earlier, Mr. Dutko did say that he likes to choose one from each party. To Sebastian's point, it does take away a lot of the right of the voter to choose here. This would really be the town committees making the decision. And I did a little bit of research, so I think one of the things that we will ask the Charter Revision Committee to look at a little bit harder next time is many of the towns like Hartford, Danbury, Hamden, New Britain, they do have a lot more council people than us, or aldermen, they call them in New Britain, and they do this by the at-large membership. And I think that may be a better way to do it. We still have to worry about linking this with the Board of Finance as well, because we have a strong Board of Finance, and we're unique in that regard, and that's why Diane's report was so great earlier, so we don't want to really change that. But there may be ways to work around that. So I'm going to encourage them to kind of go back to the drawing board and do this. This was a very complicated issue, and I also thought that this would be difficult for the voters to make a real informed decision with the other things that we had. So. And again, I just want to really emphasize the Charter Revision Commission was a nonpartisan. They were split evenly. They did a great job, and we will bring this back to them likely in the future to see if we can make it work. And just to throw a couple numbers out, by the way, Danbury, about the same size of us, 21 council members. Meriden, 12 council members. They're the same size as us. New Britain's a little bigger. They have 15 council members. So it is something to look at in the future, and I think a better way to do it is to maybe add those council people at large, but we'll figure that out. I think we're ready to vote, and so we will do a voice vote here. So if you're voting yes here, you're voting to reject this, and this would not go forth on a ballot question. All those in favor of the rejection? Yes. Or aye?
Yes, aye.
Aye.
Great. And maybe anybody against?
Nay.
There we go. We have one nay. So please note that Cheryl was that one, and it's a great debate. And I just want to be clear that we will continue this and hopefully give this to the voters in the future. Let's move on to 12B.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve increasing the term of the office of mayor from 2 to 4 years.
Do I have a second? Second. Andrew got that. Discussion. Cheryl, you get to start. It was your motion. You brought it forward.
Okay. There's a lot of projects that can get underway, and when you're new to your position, just as we're new to council and the mayor's new, the first several months, you're learning, you're getting involved, and you're starting to put together plans. And then the second year, the mayor is out trying to campaign again. And it takes time to get plans introduced, pushed through, finalized, and see them to come to fruition without interruptions. So I think this is valuable for for seeing our downtown, for seeing our economic development, that we stay cohesive and allow the mayor the opportunity to bring their projects through. And it just makes sense.
Great. Jolene, I'll start with you next.
Yes, I agree. I think the mayor should have a 4-year term. Being in this for not even a year, you're just starting to feel comfortable with everything that you have to do, form relationships with people and everything else. And then right after, you got to start campaigning again. It's like a whirlwind. So I do think 4 years is a better way to, like Cheryl said, to get things done. So I'm going with yes.
Andrew.
I'm absolutely for the 4-year term. When we got into office, there was a lot of moving parts in the wheel. And now they're still to the point where they're still changing to this day. So for us to have a new mayor come in with all these wheels still moving, but changing in the projects themselves, when you have the mayor on hand that has been dealing with the projects from day one, everything will be streamlined that way versus having to go in re-knock on doors, get reelected. It's just a time-consuming, it shouldn't happen. The mayor should be there to stretch themselves out and see their projects through.
Thank you, Andrew. Jackie, anything to add?
This is a really tough one for me. A two-year term to me has worked all these years, so I don't disapprove of a four-year term, but I'm not for it or against it. To me, I would just like to leave it up to the voters.
Great, thanks. Sebastian?
I appreciate that the Charter Revision Committee asked the previous mayors about this, and similar to what Jackie said, they responded that 2 years have worked. I know that's kind of an odd answer, but I appreciate the history that they provided, and we got answers on both sides there. At the end of the day, I think 4 years is just a more comprehensive period of time, and it allows the mayor to offer a big push for what their vision of the city is.
Thank you, Sebastian. Susan?
Don't get mad at me. Given the two choices, I am more in favor of a 4-year term for mayor as opposed to a 2-year. I think stability and consistency is key to good leadership. If I had my way, and this is no offense, I would be kind of looking at a city manager type government, but that's also where I came from, and that's what I know, and I know it works. But since we are in a different type of government here, the difference between the 2 and the 4, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think 4 years is just going to give whoever is in that position more time to be able to get things done.
I don't know why I'd be upset at that. That's good. So my little final comments here just to put on the record. We did ask a lot of previous mayors, and it is interesting to note that the previous administration, as well as myself when I was an RTC chair as early as 2018, had recommended a 4-year term. So this has been something that has been recommended by the last 2 mayors, and I think we had a lot of public participation. As a matter of fact, overwhelmingly, the public participation was for 4 years to get things done. One other real key point is that as it stands right now, with 8-year term limits, somebody made a good point, one of those public participants, to say that if you had a mayor for 8 years that served out their term limit, they would be campaigning 4 out of the 8 years. If you go to 2 4-year terms and limit it to 8 years, they're only campaigning once during their time that they're being paid to run this city. So that's kind of an important factor. The other reason that I bring up term limits, because I can't stress this enough, this has nothing to do with term limits. This is not changing the 8-year term limit. And as a matter of fact, this was my recommendation to the Charter Revision Commission, is that for myself, I would be the only one in this category, that if the 4-year term were to pass, I would not be able to run for a successive 2 4-year terms, getting my total term to 10 years. So I would actually be term limited to 6 years as the sitting mayor if this were to pass in this election. It would be enforced and go into play in 2023. The other thing that I do want to point out, and I don't want to jump too far ahead in the agenda, but number C is the one that we're going to take up next. The Charter Revision Commission was pretty concerned about getting a mayor in there that wasn't working out, and there was not great recourse to get rid of that mayor. It is still debatable on whether recall would be allowed, and that's a legal question. I tend to think that somebody would have to challenge it legally, so I think we still have recall as an option. But to ensure that there would be some recourse, you'll hear next on item C that we will be expanding the types of punishable misconduct by all elected officials, which does include the mayor. And that's what got the Charter Revision Commission, that was very bipartisan, to turn around and give this to us in our hands. So that's all that I wanted to say. I don't know if anybody has any other further comments.
Ultimately, the voters will decide.
Yep. I think it's straightforward at this point, too. So with all that said, I will ask, who is in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That one carries unanimously. Who has C? I forgot here.
Andrew.
I do.
Andrew, go ahead.
I hereby move to approve expanding the types of punishable misconduct by elected and appointed officials and the penalties for such misconduct.
Second on that?
Second.
And Jackie? Andrew, go ahead, you get first.
I like that it's not just going to be elected officials. That one key word, appointed official, people think that they're not in the same level as an elected official, but appointed or not, you still represent the city. So I'm very glad that that wording has been changed. And
Great.
out of it.
Thanks. I'm going to just open this one to the floor. I'm not going to pick on anybody. Anybody else want to speak on this? This one is pretty straightforward. Again, the Charter Revision Commission added this as an extra safeguard, and something that I think, just for clarity as well, we'll have to go to ordinance to figure out the details of this, but then that's also something that's pretty good because future administrations and future councils can amend and tweak it as those things might change. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? That one passes unanimously. D. Who's got D?
I have D here.
Go ahead, Sebastian.
I hereby move to approve changing the process for the creation of city council districts from the charter to the registrar of voters.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Sebastian, you want to give us just a quick overview on this
This,
one?
in essence, I believe changes the process from a ballot measure that goes to the voters of what our voting districts are to a process that ultimately goes to the city clerk by way of the registrar of voters office. So, I mean, I'm in favor of this. I think that leaving a decision like this up to voters who may not be ultimately aware of what the changes are, what the information is, could be dangerous or could not be wise. We have capable and very well-educated registrars of voters currently that do a great job for us, and they've been in their positions for a while now. That gave me pause for the future, just as long as we have the same caliber of registrars in their positions in the future, I think that this will be okay. But I think that it is their area of expertise, and having them in charge of these decisions is ultimately the way to go.
Great. Anybody else want to add anything? Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yes, that it would be important, although through education, to let the voters know this is really only comes into effect with the census and with the population changes, and that when the state changes the Senate and House districts, that this becomes necessary. So it's a 10-year storm. So I think that's important to know, too.
Yep. And the other part, just to highlight a little bit more, is the state will set up the boundaries, and really it's up to the Democrat and Republican, and we have one from each party, so that's a good thing, to then match that with our council districts to make sure that they're properly aligned. And it's a pretty tricky process, so it seems to work well for the current situation. They literally got all of our council districts to be within a couple hundred voters, and also ensured that voters would not be switching their voting precinct or their council district appropriation and where they vote every 10 years, and maybe more than that as well, too. So that can be very confusing for voters. So lots of good reasons. Anything else to add?
Sebastian nailed it.
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And I think we finally have E. Is that you, Sue?
I hereby move to approve various technical changes to the charter to provide consistency in capitalization and terminology.
Second.
Any comments on this one? This one couldn't be any more straightforward. This is, fixing punctuation, things like that. I will make one comment, and I will stick to what I did. I voted no against this in our previous special city council meeting, and quite honestly, the only reason I did is I made a promise that we would re-impanel the Charter Revision Commission, and I know this is going to be a very busy ballot with state offices, with the U.S. Senate, with a lot of things to choose, potentially and probably state questions. I'm a guy that believes that we should work in the rules of three, and it's easy for people to take on 3 issues, so I only wanted 3. But this makes complete sense, so I think I'm going to be outvoted on this one, but that's all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I am opposed as the mayor.
And I'm a second opposition.
Oh, I gained one. Very good. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Motion still carries. And now we move on to agenda item 13. So now that we've accepted the final report and we have the 4 questions that will move forward to the ballot, we also need to approve those questions on the ballot. So I'm going to ask the same people that brought the motion up on each issue to bring up the questions. So we skip Jackie. Do we do these together or do we do them separately? I thought we did them separately, but.
You can do them as one motion if you'd like, assuming no one has an objection to one of the questions. I mean, obviously,
Okay,
then they'd
well,
want to
let's
pull
try
that
that
out.
because I think we might be on safe ground. So would Jolene like to read the questions? Do you have them up? So we're going to entertain a motion to accept these questions. Go ahead, Jolene.
I move the following questions be placed on the ballot for the November 8th, 2022 general election. Shall the term of the office of the mayor be increased from 2 to 4 years? Shall elected, appointed officials who are convicted of a felony, fraudulent conduct, or engage in unlawful harassment be subject to penalties up to and including removal from office? Shall the Bristol City Council districts be defined in accordance with the most recent map filed with the town clerk? Shall technical revisions to the charter providing for consistency in capitalization and terminology be approved?
Second.
Any objections? I'm hoping not. Everybody like these questions?
I'm just going to congratulate corporate counsel for making these concise and clear. And, I think, the constituents should be able to derive from this pretty quick what the question is. And I've seen some pretty confusing questions on ballots before, but this is done nicely.
Agreed? Anybody else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. Great. And it looks as since we've already covered number 14 that I just have to ask, is there any other business to come before the council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have all those in favor? Aye. Great, thanks.